Welcome to Foreigners and Friendship, a series of podcasts. We present a number of bonus tracks connected to our radio show. You can listen to conversations with artists and activists, reports from festivals and other larger events, essays, reviews, poetry, and letters. We see ourselves as part of a non-binary rebellion with the intention of creating a language and a human condition beyond race, ethnicity, gender, sex, and class. Tear down these walls, dismantle the statues of power, and meet the other with an open spirit. We are at the GFI Gallery, and if you can please introduce yourself and introduce the gallery.
Welcome here at our gallery today. Thank you for coming to visit us. My name is Anna Stewart, and I'm the Gallery Manager of the GFI Art Gallery here in Port Elizabeth in 30 Park Drive, Gqeberha. And GFI stands for Gucci Family Investments. It's a privately owned gallery, and basically the mission of the gallery is to support our local artists and give them exposure.
And it is actually this Gucci family investment. What is that exactly?
So it's the Gucci family, and they initially started the gallery. The building was built it's also a historical building. It was built in 1936.
Yeah.
So there were about two families that lived here before Mr. Philip Roland Gucci purchased the house. Basically, it was a house back then, and he was the director or the person that started Mr. Philip Roland Gucci, the Coca-Cola bottling company in South Africa. Mr. Philip Roland Gucci, he purchased the house and he lived here. And in the year 2000, he passed away, and it was his wish that the gallery be, renovated and developed into an art gallery. And during that time, there was Ron Billing, was a military aviation artist that did paintings, and he wanted to sell his collection of works to overseas, and the family actually bought the collection then because they really didn't want to lose it to another country, and that's how the gallery started. So the house initially only housed the Ron Billing military aviation collection, and it's airplanes that either flew over Port Elizabeth at some point in time, and it's very historical, and it shows Port Elizabeth during that time period and the military aeroplanes that flew here. And he was a big aviation enthusiast, and he just absolutely loved it, and he put that over into paintings. Initially, that was what the gallery housed. Over the years, the focus shifted a little bit, and they started with contemporary and exhibitions of local artists. So the Ron Billings, currently, we do have them on permanent display upstairs.
Okay.
At the moment, we just have a ceramics there, but mostly during the year, for 11 months of the year, the Ron Billing collection is upstairs, which then showcases historically Port Elizabeth, the scenery and the developments with the aeroplanes. So now downstairs, we do temporary exhibitions. So our main focus is basically on local artists and Eastern Cape artists. Yeah. So we try and support and promote them first and foremost. Yeah. We do exhibit other artists over South Africa, but that's our main focus, to support our local artists. We really have a lot of talented and professional artists living in PE and the Eastern Cape that doesn't always get the exposure.
Yeah. So is it because when I read outside of this present exhibition, I get an impression that this is the kind of art who's here is also including crafts or How is this How do we view this relationship between what we can call
the
fine arts and the tradition for craft, which is also in some ways kind of art, but maybe not always regarded as such?
So I would say we focus on fine arts.
Yeah.
At the moment we have paintings on display from the Spear Arts Trust. It's an initiative of the Spear Arts Trust, and they call it the Creator Blocks, where they actually select artists from over South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we focus on paintings, drawings, ceramics. We have the Eastern Cape ceramics exhibiting upstairs. We have the Creator Blocks on the ground floor, and then we also have the Gqeberha Art Trust, and they do embroidery works. So I would say typically embroidery and beadwork and stuff like that is not always considered fine art, but it has, I think, over the past few years really grown into actually crossing the boundary between crafts and fine arts. And the Gqeberha Arts Trust is situated in Hamburg. It's a group of ladies that does the embroidery, and they tell stories through the embroidery work. They do smaller stuff that we currently have on display, but they also focus on larger tapestries. Rose, do you want to say something?
Sorry, I just wanted to explain to you, funny enough. So Gqeberha is housed at Hamburg. What happened in this country when the British settled here, then the German missionaries came out here. So between Port Elizabeth and East London, you've got Berlin, you've got Stutterheim, you've got Hamburg, and that's why it's called Hamburg. In fact, they made we will show you in the book just now, they made a triptych altarpiece that was actually exhibited in Western Germany, or Germany.
But it was also exhibited in Constitution Hill, I think.
Yes. I wanted to tell you about that. When you go home, if you're going home before the 31st or before March, end of March, is a wonderful exhibition there at Constitution Hill.
Okay, because I think I missed it last time I was in South Africa, and then I actually forgot about it when I was in Gqeberha last week.
You go online and you can have a look at that book, because they did a Guernica, the same size as Picasso's. Stunning.
But I think I saw the book because I was in Constitution Hill when they were putting the exhibition up.
I see.
So, but I couldn't really see the exhibition, but they let me go in, and then the book was on display there. So, and that's why I came to remember that it must be the same that you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. It just made me think. I just wanted to connect. And funny enough, the Gucci family, who they're German Guccis, the Gutschche, I think.
Yes.
So Dorothea's great-great-grandfather came here to start the Baptist church, and he himself opened up 27 churches in this country. I mean, the Baptist church is strong here, and it was all around that area: Hamburg, Berlin, East London. That's where they originate from. Sorry, I just
no, thank you.
So the Gqeberha Arts Trust, they run a few programs, but one of the programs is the art project, and it's initially started to assist the community and the people in the community to work and get an income from it. So it's a very small community, and they do larger pieces as well, like larger embroidery works, like what Rose mentioned, the Guernica, and they work with different companies. I know they've done something for Mercedes-Benz as well. So, and how they do the tapestries and their works is they try and tell stories of the people and the struggles they go through. And then the smaller pieces that we sell here is some of the cushion covers that they do, and handbags, sling bags, and also smaller wall hangings. So to come back to, craft and fine art, I think in the past few years there has been quite a shift in actually mediums that artists use all over the world, and like fabrics and tapestries and like that actually has crossed over the boundary of being, also considered as a fine art. So they definitely do employ it in such a way in their larger tapestries to be, I would say, considered more fine art because of the storytelling and that they include in there. Yes, so that's one of the projects that the gallery just would like to very much support. That's why we keep their stock and to give them exposure. And the Spear Arts Trust has an exhibition up here at the moment. It's like an annual exhibition that we have for them, and they come here every year, and they have a project that they run called the Creative Blocks, and it's also like a art support project for artists, also like a learnership basically, that they do crit sessions with the artist where they assist them and give them feedback about their work. And from that project they also run another project to develop artists' careers and to just assist them with basically getting their name out there and continuing with their work.
So when you're talking about this difference that craft has been given or getting closer to fine art, do you see any explanations for why is this happening now in these years? Because I think you're very right. I have been to a lot of larger exhibitions around the world where textile and fabric is suddenly integrated in the artworks in another way that we saw before. So I'm really interested in what causes such a development. Is it a coincidence, or why are we specifically interested in this kind of heritage nowadays?
I think that's the key, heritage.
Heritage. Well, I would say if you look at the Gqeberha Arts Trust, it would be for them. It would just be an easy medium to work with, and it started initially from women being able to find something that they can do, something that they might have been taught growing up and have had exposure to, and it's easier for them to learn the skill. So from that perspective, I would say it developed for them, out of the necessity and a need to create something, and what was accessible to them and what was easy for them to make. And also, fabrics are easier to get hold of. It's less expensive than, for instance, canvas and paint. So for certain people, it might just be easier and easier access. And I would say for other artists, I think it's something new and something different to use. It's a different type of medium, and some artists might be getting bored of just painting and drawing, and it's over the years, it's just, I think initially when you get exposed and see stuff like that, you get interested in it and want to explore with it. And then as Rose mentioned, a heritage, your heritage, but I'm not 100%.
All over the world, I've noticed myself.
Yes, it does. But
all countries, people are using old fabrics to recreate garments, artworks.
But it's not only the fabrics. It's like using paper, for instance, in their work, or just using different mediums or mixing mediums. Maybe it also comes from the fact that with the environment, people want to have less impact on the environment and protect the environment. It might also come from that aspect where people want to reuse stuff that have previously been thrown away and make something beautiful of it. And the more artists do it, the more people see it, and the more it becomes a trend, and then what else can you do with it? Do you like kind of the artists starting to push the boundaries of how far you can actually take the medium?
So there can be different explanations. There can be this more symbolic thing about the environment, about heritage, but it can also be kind of an interest in going.
I don't think you can
using other materials, because I think that if you use other materials, then also something new happens in the artworks. Because the tactileness is different in fabrics than it is when you put oil on canvas, for example.
Yes, and I think if coming back to the heritage, I'm just thinking of, artists in South Africa might make use of hide, animal skin and hide, and that might also come more from a heritage perspective. And using fabric and skin and animal skin can also add to the concept that the artist wants to, push or bring forward, or idea that they're working with, their concept. So I think a lot of artists in South Africa specifically, I mean, beadwork and fabrics is also like very traditional in cultures in South Africa to use that. So incorporating, going from fabrics and beadwork, incorporating that in your work, and animal hide. From that perspective, it's very much traditional form of putting a concept or your idea out there with your medium and just combining everything and telling a story.
No, because sometimes I've been thinking about, is it do we have kind of a revival of this interest in heritage because we have somehow have lost it? Because of course there's a lot of places around the world where it's not lost. There's also places in South Africa where it's not lost. But if you look in the urban spaces in South Africa, if I meet the urban middle class people in South Africa, they don't have really, they still talk about the village and they go back there for certain functions, but they don't have in their everyday life, they don't have a relationship to heritage. Yes. But somehow there's an interest in reinventing it. That is also a kind of a background for my interest in discussing it, that there's maybe there's a development back towards heritage, to put it in and frame it in a new way. Maybe.
You know what, I agree with that totally. How I see things is also I think humankind is going through renewal, and people have been looking back and realizing what was and what can be, and the beauty and the importance of fabric and all that. And if you think about it, it links all of us.
Well, working with fabric and stitching and weaving, it's a very therapeutic, I would say. Also, creating art overall.
It's kind of primal, because even our sand people, the Khoi sand people, if you look at, they didn't really make clothes, but they use hides, but they even also sewed in a way, because they used to make holes and then put the thongs through to make garments and things. All that kind of stuff fascinates me too. And then on Instagram I follow this Japanese artist. He makes incredible garments and things out of bits and pieces.
Okay.
I'll look him up for you just now if I can find him. But there's a woman in Japan as well who does indigo printing. You know, indigo. I mean, indigo, you find it throughout the world. It's that color.
So a question is also, I mean, this gallery started in 2000.
2000, yes.
And then you were employed as a gallery the manager here at that time, or you have been here since, or what is
I'm originally from Kimberley in the Northern Cape, and I started working at the gallery in 2020. So it was just before COVID hit. I started working. Yes, so it was it's a bit odd, but it was probably also nice, just slow getting into things here. So I really enjoy. Just the amount of artists, professional artists, and the talent here in Port Elizabeth and the Eastern Cape is just very refreshing. Because in Kimberley there was definitely less professional artists, and it's just and there's quite a wide variety. So it's very nice to have all these artists and work, at your fingertips. Is that the right word? To showcase their work. It's just very exciting. And yes, I know the Eastern Cape, the artist doesn't always get the exposure that Cape Town and Johannesburg get. So we really like to. That's why our gallery also wants to focus on assisting them and giving them exposure. Yes, because we definitely have more than enough talent here.
Yeah. So in 2020 we had an exhibition here on fabrics. We couldn't talk about it. She was born, funny enough, it was also done with the 2020 was 200 years since the 1820 British settlers had arrived here. And of course, our government wouldn't have done anything to I understand it, colonialists and all that. Anyway, and Pippa, what she did, she took fabric and pulled the two cultures together, the Xhosa and us, you know.
Yeah.
And she made garments, and then she put them on the woman. Funny enough, the woman that did the Kaskama embroideries, and took photographs, and that was essentially her exhibition, and the garments were here as well. And because she studied what happened, you know, with the wars, because it was called the 100-year Xhosa Wars, and one statement she told me, apparently the rural people couldn't come into the towns in their traditional clothes. They had these booths where they had to go and change into Western clothes, and then, you know, here we go with the textiles again, and it's all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
I can maybe also just mention that, the one thing that I haven't mentioned is the building was designed by Gqeberha Brinkman, and she was the first female architect to qualify in South Africa. So that makes the building also very special and historical to PE especially. Exhibition schedule for the year is quite exciting. We have our next exhibition is a local photographer called Carl Schumacher, and he is doing I would say, quite an abstract photography exhibition, a solo show that we're gonna install and showcase from the 16th of February. And then after that, we are gonna do a George Pemba exhibition. George Pemba was a big figure in Port Elizabeth, a painter, and it's an exhibition in honor of his work and his life. And then after that, we are going to do a David Goldblatt exhibition, also a photographic exhibition for people who don't know. And then we are going to have Raymond Westraat and also Lisa Dodd, both local artists, both painters. And we're also going to have a group show of the Nelson Mandela University. It's going to be comprised of some of their lecturers that's going to be exhibiting and specifically focusing on sculpture. And we will end the year off again with the creator blocks that we have outside.
Maybe that's a good way of concluding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have listened to a bonus track by Foreignness and Friendship. If you have built up an appetite for more, then you can follow us on thewhiteafricanblogspot.com and walk in our footsteps by stepping into In My Footstep WordPress.com. We broadcast new episodes of our radio show every first Tuesday of the month, available on your preferred platforms.